Shocking rules loggers must follow in Canadian forests. You won't believe what happens at 3 a.m. Deep in the heart of the Canadian forests, there's a chilling secret that even the bravest loggers whisper about. Each night at exactly 3 a.m., the woods come alive like a horror movie. It's said that the trees start to creak and groan, as if they're alive, warning intruders to turn back. Some claim that if you listen closely enough, you can hear the soft cries of long-lost souls trapped among the branches, begging for freedom. Can you imagine that? How eerie it must be to stand there surrounded by towering pines, the moonlight slicing through the shadows, and hearing those ghostly whispers swirl around you. But that's not all. The loggers follow bizarre rules that seem insane, and some have even seen strange lights flickering between the trees at night. You might think it's just another campfire story until you catch a glimmering shadow or notice something darting behind a tree. Loggers often carry talismans, items they believe protect them from whatever lurks there in those dark woods. Picture men hardened by work but clutching small carved figures, their hands trembling just a little. Fear isn't just a passing thought, it's a tangible thing, creeping up their spines, tightening their chests. And then, there's the rumor of the logger's curse. It's said if a logger disobeys these rules, they're marked for misfortune. Equipment breaking at crucial moments, accidents where trees seem to fall right at them, the stories start piling up, each more terrifying than the last. One night, a logger swore he saw a figure watching him from the distance, a shadow cloaked in the mist, and it sent a jolt through him that he'll never forget. You can almost feel the panic surging through his veins as he stumbled back, heart racing, limbs cold with dread. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And as the clock ticks closer to 3 a.m., the atmosphere thickened. The wind howled, rattling the nerves of everyone working in the area. One last whispered warning was traded amongst the crew, their eyes darting toward the tree-line, half expecting something to leap out from the underbrush. But no one could shake the feeling that tonight might be different. Would the rules hold true? Would one of them face the unthinkable consequence of breaking the ominous silence that stretched like a ghostly fog in the night? Something was coming, and it was determined to make sure they followed every eerie command. As the clock struck 3 a.m., everything went still. The air deadened, like the woods were holding their breath, waiting for something dreadful to unfold. The loggers stood motionless, shadows against shadows, gazes glued to the dark underbrush that surrounded them. Panic simmered just below the surface, rippling through the group like a contagion. They all felt it, a low hum that rattled in their bones, a sense of doom looming on the horizon. Suddenly, the haunting creaks of the trees filled the silence. It was a sound both familiar and terrifying. Some claimed it was the lament of lost souls. Others believed it was the forest itself, warning them to keep away. The hairs on the back of their necks stood upright, as if guided by a sinister energy pulsing through the woods. "Do you hear that?" one logger whispered, his voice breaking the tense stillness. "We need to get out of here now." But it was too late. They were rooted in place, a mix of fear and morbid curiosity holding them captive. The stories echoed in their minds, the logger's curse, the silent watchers in the woods. Each man felt the weight of those tales, pressed down by a fear that clung to them like the mist. Out of the corner of his eye, Jason, the youngest member of the crew, caught a flash of movement, a flicker of light drifting between the trees. His heart raced. Was he imagining it? "Guys over there," he pointed, voice trembling. Most of the crew turned, but there was a reluctance to look. They heard what happened when loggers broke the unspoken rules. It felt as if the very forest trembled, vibrating with the anticipation of impending horror. "Forget it, Jay. Just another reflection," Dave shot back, brushing off Jason's pointed finger. But Jason couldn't shake the sense of wrongness. This felt different. With each passing second, the shadows grew deeper, stretching and warping in the dim moonlight. The flickering light pulsed again, shimmering like a beacon. Did it call to them? Then came the noise, a rustling, low and slow. Leaves crunched beneath unseen feet. In that moment, terror surged through their group, erupting into a flurry of disorganized whispers. The wind seemed to carry shouts of warning, and the trees groaned again, this time like mourning voices. What if Jason began? But his voice faltered as the rustling grew louder. Something was indeed there, moving among the trees like a predator stalking its prey. Suddenly, a cry pierced the air. It was Gary, an older logger with years of experience, who had spent a lifetime trying to rationalize the horrors of the forest. "Run!" he shouted, but it was an empty command, swallowed by the dark chasms around them and a heartbeat. Confusion turned to chaos as they broke into a frantic sprint, directionless and lost. The flickering light grew brighter, illuminating faces twisted in fear. Somewhere behind them, something growled, a deep, guttural sound that made the very air seem to pull tight around them like a noose. Jason stumbled as a tree loomed ahead, the shadows shifting about him. And then, as he clawed to regain his footing, he caught sight of a figure, a tall silhouette standing among the trees, unmoving, watching them with eyes that glowed like embers. "What is that?" he gasped, chest tight with dread. No one had time to answer. The air exploded with the sound of cracking branches, a sign of some massive weight shifting through the boughs above them. What had they unleashed? Were the rules still at play, or had they stepped into something they could never escape? Jason's mind raced. He was no longer just scared, he was desperate to survive. As they fled into the black, each member of the crew couldn't shake the thought, could fate catch up with them before dawn? And as the distance between them and the woods grew, the shadows danced behind, teasing the corners of their vision. Something was haunting those trees, and it wasn't going to let them go without a reckoning. What would happen if they failed to escape? What would become of them if the logger's curse claimed its due? Time was running out. The night air felt thick with tension. Every breath Jason took fraught with unsteady gasps. Shadows flitted behind him, whispers of movement just beyond his line of sight, as if the forest itself had come alive, hungry for retribution. He pushed forward, feet pounding against the earth, adrenaline coursing through him like wildfire. "Keep running. Don't look back." Gary's voice boomed through the chaos, yet his authority was crumbling under the weight of terror. Jason risked a glance over his shoulder. The tall figure, the one with those burning eyes, remained rooted in place, an ominous observer of their plight. The forest was vast yet claustrophobic, closing in around them with each frantic step. They veered left, then right, desperate to escape whatever fate awaited them. A fallen tree blocked their path, and they scrambled over it like a herd of panicked deer. As they vaulted the trunk, Jason felt the ground shift beneath him, a sickening lurch in his gut. He landed hard, pain shooting through his ankle. "Jason!" Dave shouted, urgency lacing his words. "I'm fine. Just go." Jason insisted, forcing himself up despite the ache in his leg. The crew didn't hesitate. They surged forward, leaving Jason trailing behind. The haunting glow flickered again, drawing him toward it like a moth to flame. But he fought against the pull. The tales of the logger's curse gnawed at his thoughts. He couldn't let it claim him, not when his friends relied on him. The growl returned, lower and closer, reverberating through the trees like thunder. Instinct kicked in, and Jason stumbled forward, heart racing, each beat a symphony of fear. He locked his eyes on the flicker, a beacon piercing through the dark veil of dread. Maybe it was hope, or maybe it was a trap. Around him, the other loggers had formed a circle, breaths heaving in panic, their faces lit by the ghostly light that danced between the trees. "What is happening?" Dave panted, his eyes wide, darting from face to face, searching for answers that eluded them all. Then came a sound, a voice, soft yet chilling, echoing through the dense undergrowth. "You shouldn't have come." It drifted like smoke, curling around them, lingering on the edges of their minds. "Did you hear that?" Jason gasped, words thick in his throat. No, we shouldn't. Gary clutched his head, as if to block out the whispers invading his consciousness. The stories, they're true. We broke the rules. The air changed, an electric hum laced with dread. The forest was alive, resonating with the words of those lost. They were here, watching, judging. What do we do? Jason asked, a desperate plea masking the quiver in his voice. The pulse of fear had morphed into a panic, a tangible force growing within the group. Follow me, Gary shouted, steering them off the paths they'd known, deeper into the trees. But as they moved, the flickering light grew dimmer, like it recognized their fear and ses them too weak to chase after it. With every step, the ground squished beneath them, a thick, loamy soil that felt alive, like the earth was sucking them down. Jason gasped as he trudged through the muck. It clung to his boots, as if the forest aimed to drag him back. Then, he caught another glimpse of a figure darting between the trees, and his breath caught. There were more of them. Run! Jason yelled again. We need to get out. We need to find the road. But the words came out broken, strangled by the onslaught of fear as they ran. Raw instincts kicked in a need to survive, yet dread washed over him. What lay ahead? Were they running toward salvation or worse dangers? A chilling laugh echoed around them, haunting like a memory that should never have existed. Jason felt the blood drain from his face. What were they facing? The flickering growl faded, but it left a fear that coated his tongue like ash. He could feel the dark presence slipping between the trees, its intentions cloaked in shadows. They had unleashed something awakened by their intrusion. Would they find the road? Or was this forest their eternal prison? The path ahead loomed uncertain, cloaked in thick branches and the looming promise of the unknown. Jason flinched as branches snapped behind him, panic firing through him again. Candles of light rippled through the dark, a hint of hope, or an omen of their doom. The night was alive, and the veil between the living and the lost was growing thin. Would dawn ever come to them, or were they forever to be hunted? With every sprint, Jason realized they were slipping deeper into the forest's ominous grip. The trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, gnarled branches reaching down as if they intended to ensnare him. His heart thudded in his chest, pushing against the confines of terror, the blood roaring in his ears as that soft, spectral voice lingered. You shouldn't have come over here, Gary shouted, breaking through the wind-borne whispers. They desperately followed him, plunging through the undergrowth. The air thickened, saturated with unease, and Jason felt it coil around him, tightening like a noose. Are we sure this is a good idea? Dave gasped behind him, his voice trembling under the weight of uncertainty. The flickering light had vanished, leaving a cloak of darkness that pressed in on all sides. Just ahead, Jason spotted a flicker. Was it the ghostly light again? Hope or peril? They had passed by countless trees, but there it was, a thin stream glimmering through the fog, calling to them. Jason's instincts screamed to run toward it, to break free from the grasp of the darkness that enveloped them. Jason, Dave's voice cut through his fraying resolve. Don't even think about it. But the pull was undeniable. He could almost taste the air around it, sweet with the promise of escape. I must go. No. Stay together. Gary's order jolted him back. They couldn't risk splitting up. He turned and ran harder, heart racing, but still feeling a gnawing tug inside, like the forest was trying to siphon his very will. As they pushed deeper into the shadows, the chilling laughter echoed once more, this time joined by a cacophony of whispers. Shapes darted between the trees, dark shadows that twisted in the corners of their vision. Were they mere figments of their imagination, or more of the lost souls that had become bound to this land? Each thought clawed at Jason's sanity. Then, without warning, Gary stumbled, crashing into a thicket, disappearing from sight. Gary! Jason yelled, his pulse quickening as dread sank in. He hesitated, torn between the instinct to stay with the group and the visceral urge to rush back. We need to help him. Don't go back, shouted Dave, gripping Jason's arm. We have to keep moving. It's not safe. But the hesitation hung heavy in the air. The sounds around them morphed, a chorus of twisted lament echoing in unison, wrapping around his mind like thorny vines. Just then a loud crack pierced the stillness, like thunder rumbling in a storm. Something was near, and it was close enough to hurt them. "Run!" Jason barked, ripping away from Dave's grip. He dashed toward the thicket where Gary had fallen, heart pounding against his ribs, the weight of worry dragging him down. As he stumbled into the underbrush, he felt a shimmer of light to his right. For a brief moment, it illuminated a figure, standing eerily still. Gary? No, it couldn't he be. It stood too tall, too distorted. Behind it, shadows swarmed, a rising tide of darkness. Jason, no! Dave was right behind him now, pulling him back. But the light flickered once again, and the malevolent whispers churned with a sense of urgency. They needed to know, needed to uncover the truth of this haunted forest and face what lingered here. Just as Jason and Dave backed out, the figure let out a piercing shriek that chilled Jason's blood. The ground trembled beneath them as the shadows surged. "Go, go!" Dave bellowed, shoving Jason forward. They barreled through the undergrowth, fear fueling their escape. The shadows streaked after them, ravenous and relentless. Suddenly, Jason recalled a story an elder logger had once told him, about an ancient tree at the heart of the forest, the Tree of Judgment. If they could reach it, would it protect them? Or would they face something far worse? The laughter crescendoed as they broke through the tree-line, but the heart of the forest still lay before them, shrouded in darkness and secrets. Would the tree offer a chance at salvation, or would they walk into the maw of the forest's wrath? The night held their fate in its chilly embrace. One path led to liberation, the other to dread. Time slipped between their fingers as they plunged deeper into the unknown. Would they find the ancient tree in time, or would the shadows claim them first? Every beat of Jason's heart echoed like a war drum as he and Dave surged forward, the layers of darkness closing in on them. Swirls of mist danced around their feet, keeping them tethered to a reality that felt increasingly unreal. Jason's breath came in short gasps. Fear twisted his gut. Behind them, the ominous laughter morphed into a cacophony of snarls, the shadows hungry and anticipating. "Keep going," Dave shouted, his voice strained, almost desperate as branches snagged at their clothes. Every forward push felt like a battle against the very forest that sought to entrap them. "We have to reach the tree." They barreled through the underbrush, limbs scraping against Jason's skin, leaving trails of pain that only amplified his urgency. He remembered the tales of the ancient tree, the supposed protector of those brave enough to tread its grounds, yet doubt clung to him like the mist. Was there really a means to fight back whatever darkness prowled these woods? Or were they only spiraling deeper into a nightmare with no escape? "We're close," Dave suddenly shouted. A flicker of light broke through the oppressive gloom, shimmering like a beacon in a storm. It was faint but tantalizing, pulsing as if alive. Jason's pulse quickened. It had to be the Tree of Judgment. It had to be their salvation. But as they veered toward the light, that pulsing warmth was swallowed by a wave of frostbite. The shadows shifted and congealed around them, phantoms twisting into form, elongated and horrific. Jason could feel their agonized cries pushing against his eardrums, like 1,000 voices choking on despair. "Run, Jason, now!" Dave's words punctured the mounting fear, flooding Jason with adrenaline. He plunged toward the light, branches clawing at him, grasping like skeletal hands refusing to let go. Just as he reached the clearing, a violent gust of wind pushed him back, dark tendrils stretching out to reclaim him. "Go! Don't look back!" Dave yelled, his own back pressed against the encroaching shadows, diverting their attention. Jason hesitated, the urge to help rooted deep in his chest, but the looming threat of the darkness screamed louder. He broke free, bursting into a moonlit clearing, bright and breathtaking, but eerily quiet. The light came from a massive structure looming before him, the Tree of Judgment. Its trunk was thick and twisted, branches sprawling out like arms waiting for a long-lost friend. "Dave!" Jason shouted, panic clawing at his throat as he turned back, only to see emptiness where he had left his friend. There was no trace of him, only swirling shadows that writhed in tune with the darkness as more of the laughter erupted from the depths of the forest. Terror roared inside him. He wasn't alone. "Step forward, Jason," a voice hissed from the shadows, smooth like silk wrapped around barbed wire. He felt the tree's power beckoning, the promise of safety burning within its ancient bark. Was there a choice? Was there any hope without stepping closer? As he took a shaky breath, another figure manifested beside him, eyes glimmering with that same eerie light, beckoning him to come near. "Welcome, traveler. Choose wisely what you seek," the words echoed ominously, as whispers swirled around him once again, wrapping tighter like chains. With every ounce of his will, Jason's gaze locked onto the tree's gnarled trunk. It had to hold the answers they needed. But the specter at his side felt like crawling ice along his spine. Should he trust this voice or plunge deeper into the darkness for the chance to save Dave? As the shadows lunged at him, Jason felt the weight of destiny in the air. The night hung heavy around them. Would he risk everything, stepping into the maw of this strange entity, or pull back, running again into the unknown terror? The choice hung like a blade over his heart. The air crackled with tension as Jason stood frozen, caught between the tree of judgment and the lurking darkness. A chill crawled down his spine like fingers pulling him back, reminding him of everything he had to lose. "Choose wisely," the figure whispered again, its voice dripping with an unsettling allure. Was this creature a herald of hope or another snare, biding its time to ensnare him in deception? Jason's heart pounded, each beat echoing doubt and fear. He needed to make a choice: stay and confront whatever this entity offered, or leave, risking defeat in the shadowy embrace from which he had just escaped. "Jason!" The lingering sound of Dave's voice echoed in his mind, jerking him back to the grim reality of the situation. He had to find his friend. The darkness was closing in on the clearing, threatening to swallow it whole. Without considering the consequences, he took a step toward the tree. It was massive, ancient, and surprisingly warm, like a heartbeat pulsing beneath roughened bark. He pressed a hand against the tree, feeling a rush of energy flow through him, a strange connection, as if the tree responded to his fear. "Please, help me," he cried, desperation flooding his voice. "Help comes at a price," the entity replied. Its eyes glinted like obsidian, shifting shapes in the dark. "What are you willing to sacrifice for your friend?" Panic surged within him. What did that even mean? "Anything. Just tell me." A soft laughter echoed, sinister and mirthless. "Everything has a cost. The question is whether you are prepared to pay it." Jason clenched his fists, sweat trickling down his back. "I'd give anything, even my own life." "Foolish," it hissed, a serpent's tongue flickering in and out. "Life is a precious gift, one you take for granted. To save him, you'll have to confront your own darkness. Step forth and let the judgment commence." With a deep breath, Jason felt the ground shift beneath him. The tree stirred, its ancient roots slithering like serpents, curling around Jason's ankles, pulling him closer. He fought against it, his heart racing, but the urge to reach for the truth overwhelmed him. "What do I need to face?" he demanded, the words spilling from his mouth, almost as if he hoped the act of saying them would give him power over them. "Your regrets, fears, and failures. The path to rescue is always paved with truth." The world around him shifted violently. The forest blurred, the clearing faded, and he was swallowed by a cascade of memories: school days filled with embarrassment, moments of betrayal, times he failed to stand up for those he loved, for Dave. Each memory hit him like a blade, slicing deeper into his heart. He stumbled, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of his own soul. "Face them," the entity urged, its voice echoing from all directions. "Confront your darkness, Jason, or it will consume you." Suddenly, he felt an impact, as if the wind had knocked the breath from him. He gasped, and the shadows coiled around, forming faces of every person he regretted hurting. The laughter turned into cries, wrenching his heart. "Help us, Jason, no!" he shouted, but in that outcry, he felt the grip of their pain tighten around him. Jason was spiraling into despair, into guilt, and just as everything threatened to close in, a part of him rebelled. I want to let you win. I want to be a prisoner of my past. As he shouted this, he saw a flicker of light amidst the shadows, an illumination that cut through the darkness. It was small but potent hope. With a sudden surge, he pushed against the memories. I choose to forgive myself. The shadows recoiled, shattering around him, and in that instant, the brilliant light exploded forth from the tree of judgment, enveloping him. But just before he could succumb to it, he felt the ground shift again. The noise of rustling branches met with the sound of agonizing shrieks. Jason! A familiar voice cried out. It was Dave, faint but unmistakable. Dave! He yelled, adrenaline surging, pulsing through him as the echoes of anguish faded. Where are you? But no sooner did the tree's light engulf him than everything went black once more. What had he truly unleashed? And would he find Dave in the darkness that awaited him? In the oppressive blackness, Jason felt himself float in a void where sound and sensation faded, swallowed by an all-consuming silence. Panic clawed at his insides as memories of Dave flickered behind his eyes. Please no, he gasped, flailing against the darkness as if it were a physical barrier holding him back. I need to find him. I can't lose him. Suddenly, a pinprick of light pierced the black, growing larger as it nudged against the edges of his consciousness like a whisper. He reached for it, clawing through dense shadows that clung to his skin. With an explosive burst, he was pulled into the illumination, landing hard on cool earth. The warmth of the tree of judgment pulsed nearby, casting flickering shadows around him. He blinked, disoriented, scanning for signs of Dave. Jason! The voice was clearer now, urgent and terrified. It sliced through the haze of confusion, compelling him to act. Dave! He called, desperate to bridge the space between them. But the darkness beneath the tree churned, swirling like a storm. Jason's feet felt rooted as he tried to move forward. Each step was like wading through thick mud, the shadows pulling at him, whispering his doubts. Don't look for him, it's too late, you'll never get him back. The voices hissed, a cacophony of despair that tried to wrap around him like chains. No, I want to believe you, he shouted defiantly. The darkness won to win. With renewed determination, he staggered toward the light, forcing himself to thin the barrier that separated him from Dave's cries. I'm coming for you. Suddenly, the shadows split apart, revealing a trembling figure. Dave, bound by ropes of pure darkness that coiled around his body like snakes. His eyes were wild, fear etched across his face. The sight of his friend filled Jason with a rush of emotion, igniting every nerve in his body. Jason, help me. Dave's voice cracked, sending jolts of adrenaline coursing through Jason. He lunged forward, pushing against the looming shadows that clawed at him, trying to pull him back. No way, he yelled, feeling strength surge within him. I will free you. Jason reached for the darkness encircling Dave, his hands pulsing with heat as he grasped the cold tendrils. They recoiled from his touch like fire burning through ice, shrieking in a symphony of rage. Let him go. The shadows writhed and twisted, growing more aggressive, as Jason wrestled with their grip. A dark figure emerged from within, its eyes fixed on him, flickering like dying embers. Foolish boy, it spat, the air thick with malice. You think you can save him without facing the truth of your soul? You may have escaped the weight of your past, but can you handle this? Jason felt a wave of dread wash over him. The figure loomed larger, manifesting Jason's deepest fears one by one. Its voice echoed memories of weakness, of moments where he should have acted but didn't. Look at your friend, its sneered voice dripping with derision. You allowed this to happen. Your cowardice brought him here. No, Jason gasped, his heart pounding violently. The sight of Dave, helpless in the clutches of darkness, ignited a fire in him. I want to allow you to control me. He focused on the light within himself, fragile yet fierce. I choose to protect him. With a roar, he surged forward. The shadows shrieked as he dispelled them with sheer will, his hands glowing with dazzling light. But he felt their pull growing desperate, energizing as if sensing his strength. The ground trembled beneath him, and he fought to maintain his grip on the light. This was a battle for both their lives, and suddenly, Jason saw not just Dave, but every moment of hesitation he defaced reflected in his friend's eyes. "You can't let the past dictate your future," he shouted, not just for himself but for Dave. Just then, the ground erupted like molten rock, and a fissure opened beside them, threatening to swallow them both. Jason's breath caught in his throat as he realized they were out of time. "Hold on, Dave." And just as the shadows lunged to engulf them, he grasped Dave's hand, heart racing as he prepared to confront the darkest truth of all. Would they rise from the ashes of their past, or would the abyss claim them forever? The ground trembled as Jason grasped Dave's hand, their connection a lifeline in the chaos that swirled around them. Jason could feel the darkness pull at him, an overwhelming force threatening to drag them both into an eternal void. He tightened his grip, willing the warmth of his friend's presence to anchor him. "We can't let go," he shouted over the cacophony of shrieks that filled the air, each one a reminder of what was at stake. Jason felt the shadows writhe violently, trying to sever their bond, to rip them apart. The air crackled with tension, and he could hear the figure's mocking laughter meld into the darkness, a chilling sound that seeped into his bones. "You think you can save him? You think you can save yourself?" The dark figure taunted, its eyes glowing ominously. "You are bound by your past failures." Jason's heart pounded furiously as he recalled moments of weakness, instances when he had failed Dave, when he had turned away, too afraid to act. Doubt seeped into his mind, swirling like the darkest shadows. But he pushed those thoughts away. He couldn't afford to entertain them now. "No!" he screamed, clinging to the flicker of light within him. "I won't let you win. Not now." With a surge of determination, Jason closed his eyes, visualizing a barrier of light surrounding both him and Dave. A brilliant glow erupted from within him, bright and fierce, cutting through the lurking darkness with steely resolve. He felt like a beacon against the storm. "Jason, I'm so scared," Dave cried, the tremor in his voice tethering Jason's focus back to his friend. "Just hold my hand," Jason shouted back, willing strength into his words. "We can do this together." The shadows exploded as they surged against Jason's protective light. Wails echoed, a chorus of torment that threatened to drown out Dave's voice. The fissure beside them roared, a gaping maw hungry for their despair. Suddenly, a vision flickered before Jason's eyes, a memory he had buried deep. He saw himself standing in the shadows of fear as Dave was bullied on the playground, and he had turned away, unwilling to fight. The guilt swallowed him whole in that moment, and the darkness pulsed with it, drawing closer. "No, I won't be that person," he gasped, as dread began to flood through him. "I won't let you take my memories and twist them." Jason lifted his chin, channeling that shame into fire, transforming it into something he could wield. The light around him intensified, illuminating the suffocating darkness that had lain heavy for years. "You are not the rules I have to follow anymore." With an explosive roar, he released a torrent of light that surged outward, overwhelming the shadows that snarled around them. They screamed and writhed, unable to sustain their grip. Jason could sense Dave's fear lessening, the bonds of darkness unraveling around his friend's body. "Keep going, Jason," Dave urged, eyes wide as hope ignited within them. The sight reinvigorated Jason's resolve. But as the last remains of the shadows dissolved, the dark figure lunged forward, fury in its gaze. "You think I'm done? You have yet to confront your final fear." Before Jason could react, it vanished, only to return instantaneously behind him. A twisted smirk spread across its face. "Are you ready to see what you truly value?" Jason's chest tightened. He turned, preparing for whatever twisted vision would come next. But nothing could prepare him when the form morphed into a reflection of himself, broken, defeated, and burdened by regret. "Look at yourself," he sneered. "What would you give up to save your friend? Everything? Are you willing to risk it all?" Sudden dread gripped Jason's heart as he faced the monstrous apparition. Every part of him wanted to run, to hide, The fissure beside them widened, a cold wind gusting from it that chilled him to the core. "I'll do anything," he shouted, voice trembling, but resolute. At that moment, the shadows coiled around him once again, threatening to pull him into the abyss. "Then let us see what you really mean by anything," whispered the figure, and Jason felt the boundaries of his world tremble. What was the price he would have to pay to save Dave? As the darkness danced at the edges of his consciousness, Jason braced himself for the challenge ahead. The air thickened with doubt, as Jason wondered if he truly grasped the weight of his words. Would he truly sacrifice everything for his friend, or was the abyss about to claim them both? Time felt suspended as Jason stood facing the nightmare of his own creation. The reflection before him was more than a mere shadow. It was an embodiment of every failure, every moment he had wished he could change. His heart raced as memories flooded his mind, each one sharper than the last. "You think screaming and shouting can save you?" the figure mocked, inching closer. Jason could feel its icy breath against his skin, like fingers digging into his reality. "You can't escape who you really are." "No, I am not my failures," Jason shouted back, pouring every ounce of strength he could muster into his voice. As the words escaped his lips, Jason felt a surge of heat course through him, igniting the light that still resided deep in his core. It fought against the shadows, pushing against their encroaching tendrils. He could sense Dave flinching behind him, the horror seeping through the thin veil of light they created together. "Jason," Dave's voice trembled. "What if it's right? What if you can't save me?" The anguish in Dave's words hit Jason like a punch to the gut. The flicker of doubt ignited within him, spreading like wildfire, threatening to tear apart the fragile hold he had on reality. Anguish and fear wrestled within him. "Listen," Jason said, his voice steadying, "I can't promise we'll come out of this unscathed, but I do know that we've faced darkness before. You're my best friend, and I won't let you down again." For a heartbeat, the shadow flickered, almost wavering in the face of Jason's determination. That moment of hesitation gave Jason hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could harness that flicker into something greater. Focusing his energy, he shouted, "Remember who we are. We've always fought side by side." The fissures in the darkness widened as the contrasting light pulled away at the edges. The entity snarled, its form becoming more erratic, losing its threatening shape. "You think friendship can shield you from the truth? It will betray you when you need it most." Jason felt that familiar coil of doubt tightening in his chest again. Thoughts of betrayal and despair peppered his mind like dark raindrops. Moments of doubt crept in. Were they really as strong as they thought? But then he remembered the times they had overcome the odds, when laughter and trust had given them strength. He stepped forward, pushing away the shadows with renewed vigor. "No, I choose loyalty over fear." The walls around them trembled, shaking the very fabric of the realm they stood in. He could feel the energy shift as the darkness roared in fury, beginning to crumble under the weight of their combined light. But just then, an unseen force tugged violently at his body, yanking him off balance. Gritting his teeth, he fought against it, trying to maintain the connection to Dave. "Jason!" Dave yelled, reaching out, his voice echoing as though trapped in a vast void. "Don't let it pull us apart." The figure laughed mockingly, its voice echoing through the chaos. "That's right, Jason. Show me your resolve. But what will it take to truly sever your connection? Would you let go of that friendship if it meant saving yourself?" Jason's heart dropped. The question hung heavy in the air, and he felt the ground tremble beneath him. Could he really save Dave without sacrificing his own essence? That fear clawed at him, trying to root him in place. He stuttered, faced with the ultimatum. Just then, Dave's hand slipped for a brief second, a moment that felt like eternity. Panic rushed in, squeezing his heart tight. "Don't you dare let go!" Jason shouted, pulling with all his might, focusing on the warmth of their bond. But the figure lunged forward, ready to strike again, eager to grasp Jason's deepest fear. "Choose wisely," it taunted, and Jason could feel that he stood on the precipice of a tremendous decision as the shadows clawed at him, threatening to claim him and drag him to the abyss. Jason realized the true depth of the choice laid before him. Would he risk it all, or was the darkness about to claim both him and Dave? The chill of despair washed over him, but somewhere, beneath the fear, a glimmer of hope remained. The next moment would define not just their destinies, but the very essence of who they were. And before he could grasp the weight of his choice, something inside the darkness began to shift. There was a sound, a whisper, almost like a name, calling out from the depths. What did it mean? What if that name held the key to their salvation or their doom? The shadows writhed like serpents, coiling tighter around Jason and Dave, but a flicker of fierce determination ignited within Jason's heart. Everything he had faced, the pain, the doubts, the whispered regrets swirled around him like a storm threatening to pull him under. Jason could feel the oppressive darkness creeping closer, tightening its hold, but he wouldn't let it win. Not this time. Dave, he called again, voice steady despite the chaos. We've been through storms before. We can do this together. Dave's frightened eyes met Jason's, and within them flickered the hope Jason sought. You're right. We've always fought for each other. Dave shouted back, a surge of faith pushing against the tendrils of despair. The dark figure loomed closer, grinning like a wolf, but Jason found strength in their friendship, the bond they shared. I refuse to let go, he declared, the words blasting through the darkness like a beacon. Our bond is stronger than any curse, stronger than any fear. As if in response, the shadows shivered, the figure's face twisted in fury. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. The light within Jason began to grow, shimmering brightly, illuminating the dark corners threatening to consume them. Anything for freedom, he shouted, feeling the light pulse inside him, a heartbeat resonating with every emotion he had hidden away, the shame, the guilt, the fear. One by one, he faced them, embracing each as part of who he was. I've had enough. I choose to face my own darkness. In that moment, everything changed. The air shifted and swirled, caught in a tempest of anticipation. The figure faltered, its eyes narrowing, the mocking laughter silenced by the surge of Jason's burgeoning light. Your past does not define you, Jason roared. You're not real, just remnants of guilt and fear. With each breath, light exploded forth, burning brighter, unfurling like tendrils of fire that consumed the shadows. I stand for hope, for friendship, for change, he cried, grounding himself in truth. And for once, he felt the weight of those chains lift, as a wave of pure light cascaded over him, erasing the darkness that had enshrouded their every step and every corner of the abyss. Shadows shrieked, giving voice to their anguish as the light pressed in. Jason could feel the trembling around him, the very essence of the darkness fracturing, collapsing under the radiance of their bond. Dave was right beside him, his grip firm. Together, they both shouted, harmonizing, sending out a shockwave of light and unrelenting force against the haunt of despair. With one final push, the darkness buckled, torn apart by the brilliance they radiated. Shadows dissipated like mist under the sun, revealing paths that had been hidden for too long. The air was alive with energy. Danger had become hope. And then Jason felt it, the ground shudder beneath him, rumbling like a great beast waking from a slumber. What's happening? He stammered as the tree of judgment pulsated, its energy now merging with their resolved spirits. A blinding light enveloped them. Jason squeezed his eyes shut, dread trying to claw its way back in. But instead of fear, he felt warmth envelop him, a wrapping of acceptance that soothed every scar within. When he finally opened his eyes, everything had shifted. Where are we? He asked, bewildered. The shadows had given way to a vibrant grove stretching in every direction, filled with golden light and silver branches dancing gently in a soft breeze. Jason, a familiar voice echoed from the edge of his vision. He turned, heart hammering as he saw Dave, unharmed and standing before him, the ghost of fear gone. Dave, you're okay. They bolted toward one another, a rush of relief washing over Jason. They embraced tightly. He could feel the solid warmth, an anchor in a sea of newfound freedom. Together. We did it together, Dave grinned, his eyes bright with laughter. And for the first time in years, Jim didn't feel the weight of regret, just the sweet relief of courage found as they stood there in the grove, surrounded by the whispers of ancient trees. The essence of the forest shifted. The air was cooler now, but it held an understanding, a recognition that they had broken the cycle of fear. They would no longer sacrifice their happiness dwelling within the darkness, and, in turn, had freed those who whispered in the shadows. Pressing forward, they stepped into the glow, knowing their friendship had risen from the ashes of the past. It had made them stronger, forged by choice and sacrifice, free from curses. With the dawn on the horizon, Jason felt a surge of hope. They would live to tell the tale, their experience reminding them that darkness could not hold eternal sway over friendship as light. The forest had whispered its truths, spirits were freed, and dawn broke, warming them with golden rays. They would embrace whatever adventures awaited, hand in hand, two souls bonded unbreakably. The logger's curse was lifted. Letting out a laugh that echoed into the morning mist, they stepped forward together. Their journey just beginning. Make sure not to miss out on the next chapter of our thrilling adventures. You need to subscribe immediately so you won't miss any exclusive content we're releasing. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these mind-blowing stories. And don't just stop there, flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this stunning conclusion. What do you think is next for Jason and Dave? You absolutely must share this video with at least 5 friends who need the thrill of these endings. The time is now. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your support makes all the difference.